Hi, and thanks for logging on to the daily DVAR HALACHA. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Wednesday, 14th day of November, 6th day of Kislev. Here we go. We're continuing on in the topic of lo tisgodidu, and that means when Jews should not splinter off into everybody doing their own way. And the rabbis there's some different opinions on when it does and doesn't apply. So I'm going to lay down a few more parameters for you here in today's halacha. Here goes. There are some rabbis who hold that lo tisgodidu only applies when you're seriously offending the other Jewish things of the area. I'll give you examples. Like, let's say when a chacham, a rabbi or a wise man, tells his followers that they should all deviate from the local custom. That's really a pulling apart of what's going on in that community. So some rabbis say that's when you're guilty of lo tisgodidu. Why did you tell all your followers to follow something different than what the local custom is in your town? That's one example where some rabbis say it applies, that you should not be so divisive like that. Um, there are some rabbis who say that it only applies to prohibitions. Like, in other words, if everybody in the town is keeping to the law of Chalav Yisrael, of only drinking milk that was watched by a Jew, and you tell all your followers to not listen to it, then you're guilty of lo tisgodidu. But if it's something that's more like a custom, that everybody has the custom to walk around something two times and you're walking around it three times, then some people are more lenient and they say that's not a violation of lo tisgodidu. Um, when everybody's davening Svard in your shul and you're davening Ashkenaz, so there are a group of rabbis who say you're not guilty of lo tisgodidu. You're not violating any law. You're just branching off into your own custom quietly, and you're not dissing, as the teenagers say, you're not dissing the whole entire shul. Then you wouldn't be in violation of lo tisgodidu. And there are rabbis who also say that lo tisgodidu only affects things like actions, but not words. So if everybody is wearing this kind of tefillin and you on purpose put on, that's not a good example, but if you're doing an action that's very different from everybody else's action, then you could be guilty of being divisive. But if you're saying your words quietly and you're davening a little different than everybody else is, then you're not guilty of being divisive. That's how some people see that law. But there are other rabbis who are a little bit stricter with it and say any deviation from a local custom is a very big problem. That's how some rabbis view the concept of lo tisgodidu. The Mishnah Berurah, you should know, when discussing this topic, never exactly discussed nusach. Like, is it lo tisgodidu if I'm davening Ashkenaz in a Sfard shul? But it does seem from a careful study of the Mishnah Berurah that he considers that whenever you're violating a custom, everybody's doing this custom and you're doing a different custom, the Mishnah Berurah felt that that was being divisive and it was a problem of lo tisgodidu. One more thing to tell you, as you could see, we're reaching no conclusions in today's halacha. I'm just giving you some of the parameters of what all the rabbis hold. So I want to tell you one more thing. When Jews lived in a shtetl, and there was like one rabbi and one way for the town, and you came into town doing something different than the whole shtetl did, then you were much more apt to be guilty of violating the law of lo tisgodidu because everybody in the town was doing X, and you came in here, a big new guy on campus, and you were doing Y, and that was a more obvious problem of lo tisgodidu, of being divisive. But now, when a lot of us live in very big Jewish cities where there are like, in the big cities, there's like 30 different rabbis, 30 different shuls, 30 different customs. And so when I do my way, I'm not being incredibly divisive because we're in a big Jewish city and there are 30 rabbis and 30 customs. So the lo tisgodidu look of being divisive is less applicable in some of our big cities because there are many different levels of custom and many different levels of rabbis and many different levels of shuls. So there's more room to say, I'm not being divisive. Half the city does what I'm doing. And then there's a little more wiggle room. So I'm sorry if I've been a little bit blurry in today's halacha. I'm just giving you general parameters, And then we're going to try and pull it together with some very exact examples in our next couple of days. Today you got just the parameters on what some rabbis hold of when are you called lo tisgodidu? In other words, when are you guilty of being divisive? And I'm showing you the varying opinions. So more specific examples coming up in the next 2 or 3 days. Thanks for logging on. Log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.